Welcome back, everybody. It is Combine Night. Welcome to Red Friday. I'm glad you guys to join me. I'm going to get a few announcements. I'm going to throw the headphones on. This is where draft classes get made. This is where the Chiefs are going to get their next rookie class. This is where it all comes together. Now, for coaches, this might be the first look that they get. So we're going to kind of hang out tonight, go over not only what we saw yesterday, what we're seeing here today. Right now, it is the safeties that are on the field. We'll take a look at those guys on and off. I'm not going to spend the whole time watching live, but there's a lot to go over. So welcome to the channel. I'm Ryan Tracy. This is RGR Football. And I want to get into this part of the year because it's my favorite. I got to tell you. Obviously, you guys know that I do a ton around this event and around how teams go about building their franchises. And right now, you can pre-order the Matrix. That's going to come off of a lot of this data testing as well as all the pro day stuff. And this is the ultimate in athleticism metrics that's going to tell you what a player can be and what he can't. There's a lot out there. And you guys, it's the first time I've done a pre-order because I produce this every single year, but it's all based on my strength and conditioning, all my performance development tools from through the years. And it really does help. So go to rogueapc.com, use the code RGR23, and you can get yourself a nice discount. That will be coming down the line as we get all the data. Should have it out, hopefully the first round in a week, maybe 10 days, something like that, depending on how much data we get from this event. But there's a lot because last night we saw a lot of incredible performances. Some guys that the Kansas City Chiefs are going to be interested in, but a lot of guys are going to be interested all over the league. So right now, I just want to put this up in the corner. No, I won't because it's not going to come in right this second. But we're going to go back because Nolan Smith had a great workout. You guys heard me talk about him. I actually have him as right in my top 5 of my edge rushers. It's just that he isn't a big power end. He is a Hassan Reddick style guy. Very, very explosive. He's obviously got good speed, topped out at 4.39 on the 40 yesterday, and really put together what is the makings of a really nice matrix. Is he going to be up there with Willie Gay as far as offline linebackers? Maybe not, but he's got that tweener thing. It's the Reddick thing, and you're going to hear him compared to Hassan Reddick all weekend long, honestly, all draft season long, because there's really just not many other opportunities to say, this guy's got a linebacker body, but he plays like a defensive end. Like he's an edge rusher, but he's in a smaller body. And so he's a tweener. If Chiefs ran a 3-4, they'd be really happy with it. Like any team that runs a 3-4 now, Steelers might come to mind. I think the Jags are still running that. You're going to see some of those teams be interested in a guy like this. Clearly, the Eagles are as well. Now, Hassan Reddick's pretty expensive, so look for Nolan Smith, a guy who's got some Georgia teammates on that Eagles roster, that he might be a guy that goes at 30 just ahead of the Kansas City Chiefs, because I'm not sure they feel that they value him in the same way. But a guy that they do value is kind of a homegrown dude. And yes, I'm going to get into your questions here, folks. I promise. I'm setting those up right now. For those of you that know me, it helps me pick them out of the chat. If you put some question marks behind them, I will definitely answer every super chat. So if you want to support the channel, go ahead and throw those super chats out there. You can jump over and grab some gear. I got the new MVP logo out on a bunch of gear. So you can grab that in the store. It's down there in the description. But as we go through, it's about those athletes that stand out, not only on film, but in terms of their athleticism as well. And I base my grades overall on a little bit more athleticism than most because I am one of those guys that believes being an elite athlete separates you. And you see that all over the field all the time. Now, we don't do that at Rogue Analytics. We try to take a balanced approach. We have a formula that keeps everything from film to production to athleticism kind of in a balance that represents what most of the teams do in the league. So whether it's I doing the film review, Dan doing the film review, all of our other guys, we're going to have a lot more contributors this year. So we're going to have film grades on a lot more players than we have in the past, where we usually only did the top 10 or 15 at a position. We're going to have a lot more than that. So bear with us. It's going to be a long draft season, but we're going to have a lot of great information for you. And it's all going to roll up into not only the Matrix, which will be out soon, but the draft guide that will be out the week, just a week or two before the draft. Right now, you can go pre-order the Matrix right here at rogue8bc.com. And that's going to be the cover this year. I'm working on the cover for the draft guide. I think it's going to be a little bit different as well. But that said, Nolan Smith stood out yesterday. The Chiefs have a couple of guys that they're interested in. I should have pulled up my Twitter because I put it out there. But Yaya Diaby is a guy that really outperformed what I expected yesterday. And he is a guy that the Chiefs are going to like because he has the power, he has the thickness, he has the build. He can set the edge. He can understand where leverage is coming from and play the run well. And he can turn around and get after the quarterback. Now, he doesn't have the ultra production in this class. I'm going to break down production later, but he is a guy that's going to accomplish a lot of things, and now he tested really well. That's really nice because that tells you that he has the high upside of what can go on the field when he's pressed as an athlete, and that's what's going to come next. The guy that really stood out, though, and I want to review this because we haven't had a chance to really watch it here, is Tommy Adewale, and he's a guy that has some Kansas City ties. He has a lot of athleticism going for him. Is he undersized? Yes. He came in at 6'01.5. You can see that up here in the corner. And this is a standard athletic matrix profile from Rogue APC. This is how I kind of give you the star chart of how they align in the four most major metrics, and that is overall athleticism, short area quickness, power production, and explosiveness. Now, he's a defensive lineman, so there's only the four. As you get into the skill positions, you also get long range, explosive range, and a couple of other metrics that only we have that really illustrate exactly where a guy's strengths and weaknesses are. That goes a long way towards getting you where you need to be right on top of it. And so you can see here, just from the defensive line group, this is where I was really listing him as number one in overall matrix, number one in power, explosive. He's even got the explosive range. I rank it here, even though it's not part of my overall evaluation, because defensive linemen, unless you're Colin Saunders, don't generally have to get into the 20-plus yard plays, and that's where explosive range starts to take over. So that's mine. Short area quickness is here. Number two there, and that's because Lucas Van Ness had a really great combine testing period yesterday as well. But what you can see is that is all combined in a body that is only 6'01.5. That's just a hair over 6'1.5, I'm sorry, and well under 6'2. But he's at 282, and his arm length here is what's really, really important that I think you want to notice. 33 7/8. That's significant because that arm length is what allows him to play as though he were bigger, taller, longer than he is. That goes towards allowing him to do some things penetration-wise that you can't really see everywhere. Let's see. Got a lot of questions in here. We're going to get started on those. I just wanted to give you guys an idea of what the breakdown looks like for Adewale because I think they're going to have a chance at him. Now, a lot of folks thought he was a day two guy. I was one of those. He may have just bumped himself into the top because that was the one thing that the teams wanted to know is, yes, you're an undersized guy. We've seen your film. You do pretty good, but you play at Northwestern on the lower half of the Big Ten. What can you really do? Well, this kind of showed that when pressed to the next level, he's got the takeover and really hang in there. So that's what I really like watching. Now, the other position that we're going to have here that's going to have to come in handy is I think there's a safety in the future. I think Juan Thornhill is going to get a contract elsewhere. And the safeties happen to be the group that are on the field right now. So I think we'll jump over there and we'll watch some of them. This is the safety version of the pedal and out drill. And I'll just kind of walk you through some of this. Kayvon Merriweather's the next guy up. He's a good example. Just a clean pedal, get to the sidelines. This is like deep outs. This is possibly on comebacks when you identify them. It's about reading the quarterback in your pedal and being able to break. Now, this is a simulated situation. So they're really giving them a signal, a call to break. That's a little bit of a tweak, but you're trying to recreate something that's natural on the field. So as we let them go through this drill, which I actually enjoy this one pretty good. And I do think if we see something explosive, we're going to recognize it. And I do think there's been a couple of guys that have stood out already. I'll recap those probably over on NFL 33. So make sure you go get subbed over there as well. So first question up, already have my draft tickets looking at the tight end in the first round or edge. First round's a little rich. And sorry, I'm getting dry throat already. So I'm going to have a quick drink. A little bit tough to go tight end in the first round because traditionally one of the big fours is really where you want to go in terms of offensive tackle and defensive end that they both need. You already have the quarterback and you fixed the corners last year for the most part. Now, I think L'Jarius Sneed has to come back in order to make that really work because you need to keep him. But, John, I like where you're going. I just think that there's value to be had later. Third, fourth, fifth round is where I'm going to look for a tight end if I'm Brett Veach. Now, if something crazy happens and Kincaid falls to 31 or falls to 23 and you feel you can put together a package and you really have to go get him, maybe you pull that. I'm more apt to trade up right now for one of the offensive tackles or an edge. That's kind of how I feel about it right now. I've been starting to run mocks on Locked On Chiefs. We're doing mocks on Mondays. Just recorded our earlier one today for Monday, so check that out when it drops. Edge is clearly one of those core positions. And this, by the way, in the blue hat for Hamlin is Poyer from Buffalo. And earlier it sounded like maybe he's not even going to be the guy that stays in town. It sounded a little bit like, I don't know if I can go back. I don't think they can afford him, but I'd love to have the conversation about what would he look like in Kansas City next to Brian Cook and Justin Reed. I mean, that would be an incredible trio. Now, that said, edge, I'm certainly with you, John, because that's going to be a really important position. In fact, I think they have to take maybe two of them in this draft to supplement and take more shots at it. Kind of like they did with Kando and bringing in Herring lately. Like, if one of those guys worked out, great. Neither of them have to this point. So I think you keep taking cuts at it until you get what you want. So I'm more than happy with this. And this is another drill that we're seeing on here. As you see a straight drop back, this is as though when the Chiefs split out into two high safeties, right? This is simulating that. So you're a high safety look here. You're going to backpedal until you see the quarterback make either a look one direction, and then maybe he comes back and he tries to fake you out with his eyes, and you got to cut back underneath it. This is really the backpedal's part of this, but watch the hips. That's what you want to see. Can they change direction and flip their hips from the opening this way to back like that? Having to dig down, that's not really indicative of a guy that can twitch and go the other direction and really make a play. So you got to watch those kind of things. Unfortunately, talking about edges while we're watching, safety is a little bit different, but hey, we're going to see how this stream goes over with the NFL. And hopefully we can talk about some guys that are going to make some sense, not just in the league, but in Kansas City. I enjoy talking about who's who and who's where in terms of fit, because I don't think many saw Brian Cook as a fit last year unless you really watched his film and saw him do the variety of things. Variety is going to be a big deal. And that brings me back to your comment, John. Edge is edge, but right now this year, because of the versatility, and honestly, it's the Chris Jones effect, because Chris can line up at 3 tech inside. He can go over the 5. He can go over a little bit outside at 6. He can go all the way out to the 9 if he has to. His versatility is overflowing into the college ranks because they're calling guys like Keon White and Lucas Van Ness edges. They're not really. They're really defensive tackles that can go from 3 to 5 and then maybe a little bit outside. And so I think that's where we're going to see it slush, because Spags is looking for length and strength in his defensive edges, whether he calls them ends or whatever he wants. So those guys, even though I think they're natural tackles, probably they can line up out there, and it gives the Chiefs more options in this draft. I think that's what's crucial here. John also said Deuce would fit in my book in the 3rd round. Deuce in the 3rd round is way too high for me. Deuce is going to be a late round guy. He might even go UDFA. A lot of teams are going to be scared off by his size. And we're talking about Deuce Vaughn from K-State, folks. I like Deuce as well. He's got a lot of energy. He is a little spark plug. And I think, like Pacheco, I think his run style rubs off on the rest of the offense. And you can get some juice from that. And I think that's really crucial. What do you bring onto the field with you that can help the rest of the team? And right here, that looked like a pretty nice turn. You got to be able to attack the ball. Some of these guys are going to be, the thicker style box safety. Some of them are going to be the all-arounds, and that's really what Spags is looking for, what Dave Merritt is looking for. And if you watch, you'll see that Dave Merritt's down here with all the DBs, really getting firsthand knowledge of what's going on. Tyler, I completely agree with you. I love this part of the year, this process. This is where I got my start in football, and that's really what I come back to every single year. Let me grab a couple more questions here, you guys. And James, you hit one of my guys on the head. I like that. A lot of good questions. We're going to get into those right now. Sugary Head say, any draft risers or fallers that will affect our first pick? Well, Adewale, that we were talking about before, the defensive tackle from Northwestern that can play edge as well. They list him as an edge on some sites. He really isn't. His bread and butter is going to be inside. He could change everything for the Chiefs. I thought he was going to be a 45 to 60-ish range player, mid to late second. He might have bumped himself up into the first round. If he does that, it might be tempting for the Chiefs to go after that, because in the end, like I've been talking, I think they do have to extend Chris Jones. But I think also you have to supplement Chris Jones. And that's one thing that Adewale does. He actually has a lot of juice inside, penetrating, beating guys to their outer shoulder, being able to come underneath. The length that he has as a 3-tech is so different than most guys that he has a significant advantage there, I think. And it doesn't look like I'm getting the notices I thought I was going to here on the stream. And I'm going to have to check one other thing while we're doing this, because I'm getting an echo now, and that is bothersome to me. Future Chiefs. I can't wait to see him. He's still in high school. Well, awesome, Tyler. I will keep an eye out for him. So let me know when the younger, is it Helton, comes along, so that I know. To safety, I think, takes away some of that, of what he's naturally able to do. But he's done it before. So if the Chiefs disagree with me, or because they feel they have a logjam now, they could do that. He played safety at La Tech. He was able to make that transition as well. Honestly, it's partly why he's able to understand what's coming at him. And here's another guy that makes plays. He just does it, and I'm going to keep an eye on him, just so you guys know. Now, Snead at safety alleviates the need for drafting a safety. That's for sure. As sophomores, as second-year players. And I'm not sure they're ready for that. Particularly Williams, I think, is still a little bit behind Watson. McDuffie's ready to go. I'm not worried about him at all. But I think we're getting a little thin if we're moving Snead away, either letting him go, Jason Taylor the second. Yes, I guess. Tyler, I'm glad you noticed it, because I wasn't aware. Keep Snead moving to – okay, got that one, Latin. Yep. You must have put that in there twice. Apologies. Let's see. If JSN is at 20, where the Seahawks are, would you trade up in front of the Chargers and Ravens? I can see it. I've seen a lot of guys talk about that. Now, the only problem with JSN right now, and almost half completed backflip there. Well done. The problem with JSN right now is that he's a slot. I'm sorry to say it, but he's a slot. I don't think that he's going to be able to jump up and take on, the on the line of scrimmage, press man duties or anything like that. So then you end up having Kadarius, who should be in the slot. Although Kadarius did all right outside. Sky Moore and him all inside. And then what if McCole ends up back here? Like there's just not enough room. So I have a little bit of trouble projecting him being used that way. Not that he couldn't do it. That's a little bit of what I'm thinking. I still like the player, though. He is my number 2 overall, and I'm not a Quentin Johnson guy. I think Quentin's a great athlete. I'm not sure he's a great receiver. So we'll see where that comes out. Again, we have the receiver workout to go. We have pro days to go, and I still have a lot of film to go through. Quentin Johnson had a little bit more disappearing act than JSN did, so maybe you pull that trigger. I just don't know if he's going to grade out as imperatively as some of the offensive tackles and defensive ends do. So it may be a move to 20, may not be for him, depending on how Brett Veach has the board stacked. Can you tell me what I'm missing with Nolan Smith when I watch him? He doesn't have the flash that I see when I watch Ojulari. Okay. I'm not sure then. Go back and watch the championship game from 21. Watch a lot of that season. I think you'll see it. He wasn't quite as explosive here in 22 because he was injured, but neither was Will Anderson. BJ, I think, was right about the same. It's the duck. It's the knowledge. It's the being in the right place, whether it's snuffing out screens from the edge or really chasing down the quarterback around the outside. Nolan really does have it. I don't know. I'll try to put together some highlights or maybe outline them here. I will attempt to do that for you guys. David, thank you for the super sticker, super chat. Thank you. Very much appreciated, and I appreciate all the work that you do. Let's see. And I will answer your Keon question as well. Is he a tweener? Could he fit inside or outside? Fits the swap inside. Only missing 40 time. Thoughts? Yeah, I mean, that's exactly what Keon is. Like, in my opinion, he'd be best as a 5-tech in a 3-man front, but he can play defensive tackle. I'm not worried about it. And the cool part is if you end up like that, if you were to just go down that road and say, I'm just going to take the best guy, whether he's a true edge or a true tackle, then you end up having Chris Smith and Mike Dana and then Keon White, who can all intermingle and can play all 3 positions from edge to 3-tech to inside. And I like that concept. It makes you more multiple. It gives Spags more options. And I like Spag with fresh options. So that makes a lot of sense to me. I'm grabbing a few more questions here. Bear with me just a second. Okay. Bada boom. And let's go. All right. Jackson. Do you think Broderick Jones could fall to 31, or do you think we'd have to trade up to get him? That's a great question, Jackson. And I do think they're going to have to trade up to get him. Now, will he go at like 9th or 11th like I'm seeing in a lot of mock drafts? I don't think so. But if he's there at 16, which is the Commanders, I am on the phone. Because I think he's not only better than Paris Johnson overall right now, I think they're very close, but he's got way more upside. And I think he's going to prove that he is drastically the better athlete here. I think they run tomorrow. So, yes, in my opinion, if they get to 16, I would start making calls. I would jump up to go get him. I think that that's worth it. And then you just deal with the fact that he can play left, he can play right. Maybe you have to bump Orlando back over to the right-hand side. Maybe Orlando doesn't want to come back, and you tag and trade him. I am not a proponent of tagging Orlando Brown and then just releasing him or taking the tag off because you end up with a draft pick. You gave draft capital to get Orlando. I think you have to recoup that, in my opinion. But Broderick's my tackle 1. And again, I'm probably 90% done with the offensive tackles, meaning that I've watched at least 4 games on just about all of the major ones. And it would take something significant on one of the films I haven't seen of Paris Johnson to really change that. Skoronski's as good a player, but he's a guard on my board now. I have officially moved him. He's excellent, but his arm length came in, I think, at 32.25 yesterday. That's shorter. I think that's as short or shorter than Joe Tooney. He's got to go inside the guard for me now. So that changes things. And now it's Broderick and Paris at the top, and I like Broderick better. So great question, Jackson. Appreciate you. Any updates on the plan with Clyde? Jesse, that's a great question. Obviously, I don't know anything official. The silence is kind of deafening right now. They don't really gain anything by cutting Clyde. They get $835,000 back on cap. Cost him 2.6, I think, in dead money. So there's no financial incentive to cut him, even though I don't think he's much in their plans. The fact that he wasn't at the parade is a little bit weird. Maybe he had business that he had to conduct or whatever. I know there was a fashion thing, and I know he's into that. Maybe it was a deal where he had permission to be gone because A, he's hurt, and B, he had a business deal going or something like that. But I don't think there's any reason to think that they'll trade him. Uh, I don't think anyone's going to give much up for him. Could you get a seventh for Clyde? In fact, let me jump down because I think Daryl's asking that. Could they trade CHH for a draft pick? They certainly could. I just don't know anybody who's going to give him a draft pick for Clyde. If they did, I can't expect it to be anything more than a seventh, and they already have 3 sevenths. So at least they're projected to. The compensatory picks have not been announced yet, but we expect that they're going to have 2 additional 7th-round picks when the compensatories come out. So yes, while it's feasibly a possibility to trade him, I don't think you're going to find a trade partner that's interested in Clyde Edwards-Helaire. Another question from Jesse. Thank you. How do you feel about Van Ness? He's the Iowa defensive lineman. DB's Joey Porter or the super skinny kid that's only 166 pounds. I don't know who that is. 166. I didn't catch all the weigh-ins yesterday. Generally, that weight makes me very, very nervous. Tutu Atwell, but the super skinny kid that's only 1. I don't know who. Man, now you got me stumped there, buddy. Love Joey Porter. I think he needs to be in a man system just like Keely Ringo does. Can he play zones? Yes, he probably can, but I don't know that I want him to play a lot of it. And it seems like the second half of the year, Spags went to more zone. Could he fit here? Possibly, because that let him go back to a lot more man, but they just invested in all those rookies, and I expect them to keep Snead. So they're 4 deep at corner. I don't think they can go for Joey Porter. I think they'd have to trade up again into the teens to get him anyway. Now, Van Ness is really interesting because I think what Van Ness showed yesterday, let me see if I can pull his numbers up here real quick, because I did run him as a defensive tackle because that's where he belongs. He is a 5 technique, ideally, meaning a 3-4 base, heads up open tackle that has to play on both sides. He's bull. And so that doesn't quite fit that. So if he can't be a 5 tech and read, and you want him to attack, you got to put him in a 3 tech. Because, yes, he can line up outside, but he doesn't have the speed and burst to really be super effective out there. Bear with me 1 second, and I'm going to pull it up. I have the rudimentary results in here from the testing. It is as yet not clearly defined. And he came in – what did he come in at? His change of direction, his short area quickness, I call it SAQ, S-A-Q, short area quickness, was very good. It was up at 3 for the edge group, meaning some of the defensive tackles, defensive linemen, some of the linebackers, the guys that I've designated to be edges. After that, it got a little iffy. His explosive traits, though he is very powerful and he's got a very good first step on film, he jumped drastically less than George Karlaftis. He's not as nimble as George Karlaftis is. He is a more linear athlete in terms of when he's chasing the quarterback. It's honestly a little bit disturbing to me because he's got nearly elite defensive line change of direction, short area quickness, but I don't see that on film that often. And his overall explosive traits aren't there as I would expect. Maybe he just had a bad day testing. I don't know. But I like him. He's just not a top 10 pick for me. He's barely a first rounder. He's a guy that I could see being there when the Chiefs pick at 31, along with Adewale, that could be really interesting fits because he's a guy that Spags is going to like. And he also is very, very raw. So that makes you kind of project for the upside for what he's going to grow into and become. So great question. I'm glad that you like him. It looks like there's another Van Ness comment. Are you surprised he only had 17 reps? Yeah, I mean, that's what I'm saying. Like the power and everything, it's just not quite there. The explosiveness isn't quite there. And this is a kid that never started at Iowa. And yes, I know they play their linemen, their elder players more. I get it. It still says something to me. So I'm with you there, Cole. Like that does mean something to me. For as strong as he plays on the field in terms of leverage, his best move is a 2-arm, like really hip extended bull rush. And that plays right into being an interior tackle. Thank you, Caroline, is the Forbes kid from Mississippi State, who earlier when I was watching is just skinny as all get out. That makes me nervous. His whole body looks like BJ Skinner's calves. Now Skinner's a little thicker up top and got I think the rear end and the hamstrings to go with it. He's just got really skinny calves. 166. I don't know. Forbes has got good grades on film. I didn't think he was that small, so that makes me a bit nervous, I do have to say. Joseph. So, and Anduike Uzama, I got to slow down when I say that, seems like a good second-round pick based on the SPAG system. Is he going to be around, or are we going to get into the 50s? Yeah, he's going to be around, I have a feeling. Could he go in the 60s? Sure. Could he slip past the Chiefs? Yes. Could he go up to 50? I think that's a little rich for him because, unfortunately, he hasn't demonstrated what he's going to have to do in the NFL as much as he's demonstrated that he's a good college player. And that's because of the system they ran at K-State. I think he's got it in him, but I don't think that the NFL is going to spend the high draft picks to find out. So, yes, I think they have a chance that he could be there in the second round when they pick at 63. And I know we're all throwing out numbers because we're used to the last pick of the Super Bowl champion getting 64, but Miami lost their first-round pick, so everybody moves up a pick. So it's 31 and 63 for the Chiefs, and I just got to keep remembering that. But thank you, Joseph. I do like the player. I do like the fit. He's clearly strong enough to play and set the edge. He's just got a lot of learning to do because he wasn't actually asked to do what the Chiefs need him to do if he is going to be that outside edge rusher. So I think it's worth a gamble at 64. Certainly if he falls past that, I'm very happy with him on the third round. I don't know that that'll happen, though. So I like that. Thaw the screen. I'm not sure what that means. Sorry about that. It's winter in the mountains sometimes. My interweb is still iffy. I know it's better most of the time, not always. So let's see where else. Sydney Brown from Illinois. Early day 3. Thanks for the live stream content. You're absolutely welcome, Ocean. I don't know if he's going to last to day 3. If he's there, yes, absolutely. I think he might even be a fringe first rounder, depending on, I didn't see all his numbers so far today. But if he confirms he's the athlete that I thought he was, you just might see him go earlier than that. And it looks like he ran 4.48. He jumped 10.10. So he's got the explosiveness as well. So I don't think he's going to make it to day 3, Karen. Trade up for Branch, Tyler. He's got a good grade. He can play the nickel. He would be a bookend to Snead. He would let Snead play outside all the time. And then Williams would be he'd be the 5th probably. Unless you're talking about Branch being that nickel / corner / safety. So maybe he plays into the third safety role and he's just the guy that drops down and takes coverage. Whereas Cook would be the guy who drops down and takes box responsibilities. I could see that too. Problem is they don't have that glaring a need for a safety because they just invested in one last draft. So I have trouble seeing them trade up for him. Unless they just get a burr that they got to have that particular player. I think edge or offensive tackle is way more likely. Kareem Hunt might be a good fit in this kind of offense and maybe a good free agent signing. What do you think? Could he fit our scheme? I mean, yes, he's played in this scheme easily, and he's a good back. Most particularly, he's a good pass-catching back. He's not quite as good as he used to be when he was with the Chiefs before. I don't know. I saw a number of plays where he just didn't seem to track the same way as when he was younger. Now he's definitely older, but he's had Nick Chubb eating up like all the tough yards and the tough contacts. So I'm not quite sure why that is. He would definitely play in this system and be a good fit, especially with Pacheco and be a 1-2 punch. I just don't think the organization will trust him again. So I don't think they'll bring him back. Could they? Yes, and it would be a good fit. I just don't think they will. Thoughts on why we haven't franchised Orlando Brown yet, Cole? I think right now it's like nothing happens unless it has to happen. They have till the 7th, I think, is the day they have to announce the tag. So they're trying to say, listen, Orlando, we don't want to tag you. Let's get to a deal. Come down off your price. Let's get an extension inked. That's what I think they're doing. And I think the tag will go up the day of the deadline, and they'll call it good at that point, thinking that they did everything they could to not do it, and then they ended up having to. Brian, thoughts on Louisville's guy, Cottrell, and maybe that's Catrell. I always called him Cottrell, but maybe I'm doing that wrong. Seems like he would be a good compliment to CB. Room. He would. I like the way he moves. He's scrappy on film. Not the greatest program, so I do think he's raw in a couple of areas. The question is he going to go high enough that it's not really worth doing when you've just got all those guys that now need playing time? And like I said, I don't think there's any way they can part with Snead and be a better team for it. So I think there's 4 corners on this roster right now that can play. I just don't know if you can squeeze him in. That's going to be the bigger obstacle, I think. Iron Man, hope you're well. Any chance that Snead gets traded? What do you think the Chiefs can get in return? What does it mean for them? It's going to be hard to trade him, I think, because whatever you do, the understanding is he's going to get a long-term contract because this is the last season of his rookie deal. And I think other teams might be a little bit less happy to pay it than the Chiefs are. We'll see. Bigger thing to me is I don't think you're going to get more than a second for him. Maybe not even that. And I just don't think it's worth taking that piece away from the Spag system to take another chance on another guy and knowing that you're going to have to rely on both Jalen Watson and Joshua Williams to be starters, not backups that can fill in. Because remember, those guys played so much because there were injuries. We have to make sure that there's at least 4 on a roster. Hopefully all 5 of your guys you feel are just about starter quality. That's how you have a team that gets to that Super Bowl and withstands the injury run. So I don't think they part with Snead. Let's see. Checking out the rest of the questions. And remember, you guys, it helps me if you could put the questions at the beginning. And yeah, would you guys hit the like for me? Like and sub. And I'm guessing here we have less than 300 people in here, so I'm guessing you're all subs anyway. But if you're not, make sure you hit the sub. That would help us out. Greg, I appreciate that. Thanks for reminding me because I don't say that stuff enough when we're on here. Do you think some would trade a draft pick for CEH? No, I must have not clicked this right and left it in the list. No, I don't think anybody's going to give you a draft pick for Clyde. I just don't think he has the value. David said, Juju, who wants to return. D-Hop is not a fit for Chiefs persona-wise. My answer anyway. I could have seen that back in the day when Hop was still leaving Houston. But looking at what he did in Arizona and the elder mentor type role he started to take on, which honestly should have been AJ Green's because AJ's the older player and has been an all-pro. I actually changed my perception of DeAndre Hopkins a little bit and maybe think he is a little bit more team friendly. Problem is he's like 31 and almost 300 days right now. Like he's old. He's falling off he's on the edge of the cliff. If he falls off and you're paying him a ton of money, it's not really what I'm here for. So if the Cardinals release him and they can get him on a veteran deal that is like incentive laden, I'm all for that. But I'm not trading for him. I'm not going to pay his $24 million cap charge next year. I just ain't doing it. Do you think? Okay. Sorry, Daryl. I got a bunch of yours confused. I must have double hit them. We got Joseph. Thank you. Cold Ape. Are you surprised by this one? Yep. Got that one too. Shoot. All right. Last call for questions, you guys. Looks like we're running thin. The safeties are done now. So we ran out of anything that might pop up and give us a rush there. So we'll answer these next few and we will be on with our weekend. First off, this is my first plead of each to go get Broderick Jones. I like it, Red Hood. I like it. Mr. Beach, if you would please listen to Red Hood. But my question is whether your thoughts on Deonte Banks, the CB from Maryland. I like him. I think he can do a little bit of everything well. I like him better in contact, whether that's from straight man or like that pseudo bail where he actually comes back into contact. I saw him do that a bunch on film as well. I think he's a guy that's probably rising. I will say this too. I like the kid that did so well at the Senior Bowl, Darius Rush from South Carolina, the other South Carolina corner. He's going to be lower down. He's going to be maybe even a day 3 guy, which is where I think you can start looking at another corner if you really feel you need to round that out. Excuse me. If they decide and something weird goes on and they get value for Snead and they do decide to trade him, which makes me think that he's got championships, he's looking to get paid. Then maybe you go after Banks. I do like him, and I think Spags probably does too. Great question, Red Hood. Mac, can you tell me where you got the logo with the head and the red mask on it? I've seen one on a car sticker in black. Thanks. I could probably make some stickers. It is similar. I made it, but it is from a bigger design that is available in stock art. You've seen other companies use something similar. I trimmed it up and changed it to make it mine. But there are 2 other companies that have similar designs. I've got it on some shirts and stuff and on a hat. If you guys want stickers, I can make those too. So absolutely. There's Diesel Power is where I got the idea. They make diesel accessories for my truck. And theirs is similar, but way bigger beard, not like the Star Trooper kind of thing. Just a little bit more straight motorcycle skulls. You know what I mean? Daniel, hope you're well. What about Derek Hall? Would he be available at 31 or earlier day 2 pick? I do think he will be available. Let me take a look at his testing from yesterday. I don't think he got a huge bump yesterday is the reason that I say that. He did fine. I was happy with it. It didn't surprise me at all. But where did it go? Hang on one second. Trying to find that. And I'm not sure why I'm not, but I'm not. So let me check this. And I'll go back to the raw results and tell you what I think, because I can probably eyeball that anyway. There it is. Okay. Ran as a linebacker. He's actually an edge. 4.55 was his best 40. It's a good 40 for an edge. What did he come in at? He's under 6'3". He's at 250 pounds, which is fine weight because Frank played lighter than that, to tell you the truth. Now, Frank plays with the edge of a veteran, though, so you have to give that to him. He is 6'2" and a quarter. 6'026" is what he came in at. That's decent. Problem is the explosion. His vertical was only 33. The broad was okay. The cornering was not there. He did not run a 3-cone, and that's what I have to see from him. For an edge rusher, 3-cone's pretty much the holy grail. That combined with your vertical and broad, combined with your 10 split, give you an idea of not only can you get to the edge, but can you play through contact, turn the corner, and actually chase the quarterback? Because that's the difference. That's what's really unique about Colin Saunders. You guys remember when he chased down Jalen Hurts in the Super Bowl, right? It's because he broke through his initial block and then he had the ability to accelerate and chase the quarterback. There are some guys that once they get to that point, they just don't have the next gear to go get him. And that's what I fear for him. So I got to see it a little bit more. He is a guy that I've done a film on. Having a little trouble getting Auburn film this year. So I haven't seen as much on him as I need to. He's one of the guys that is not done on the edge group for me. So I'll try to get more on him. Okay, I'm going to dig down and find more of comments here. Last call. I think we got one. And then we'll be good. Just got into the chat. So if you covered it right, no worries. All right, no problem, Brett. What's the word on Jalen Carter? And do you think that he's still on teams' boards or could he fall? Would he be on the Chiefs board? He'll definitely be on the Chiefs board. unless it's found out that he was the guy driving the car where those 2 people died and he like fled the scene and got out of it and is responsible for their deaths, he'll still be on boards. He will still be on the Chiefs board. Depending on what happens next, uh, I do think he's in for a fall. I don't think he's the number one pick anymore. I don't know that he falls anywhere close to the Chiefs, though. He could fall to 9 and go just as easily. So those were two young people that had bright futures in front of them. And depending on what comes out in the circumstance, I think that will have a large bearing on what happens to Jalen Carter. So Brett, let's just stay tuned and see what we find out. Iron Man, not sure if you went over this already or not. What are the Chiefs' biggest needs in the draft? It's offensive tackle, outside pass rusher, edge, and wide receiver, then interior defensive line. And I could switch the interior edges around depending on the player, because this class has a lot of guys that can do a bit of both. A lot of Mike Dana types. And I'm not to say that like backup level players. There's a lot of guys that can do what Chris Jones does and play 3 tech and play edge and be effective. So I think that gives the Chiefs a really nice opportunity to have more guys that they feel will fit their system and can actually come in and help. So like I'm optimistic they're going to get somebody that can affect the defensive front. And maybe it's not an edge, maybe it's an interior guy. But as long as they get after the quarterback, I don't care. So I think one way or the other, I feel pretty good about it. So put it this way. Let's go offensive tackle, edge, and interior defensive lineman, D tackle, and then wide receiver. Then you can get into safety. Then you can get into – you could maybe get into another guard, but then you get to running back. And that's why my principle is I'll never take a running back in the first round. I think you guys know that. For those of you who've been at the channel for a while. But beyond that, I generally don't want to take one in the top 100. But this year, for the first time in a couple of years, as soon as the 4th round comes around, day 3, it's open warfare on getting running backs as far as I'm concerned. Because I think you're going to have an opportunity to get a couple of good ones. And that's what I'm really intrigued by. Because that's, I think, right now the area. I think they're going to do something in free agency for wide receiver. I think they're going to get a wide receiver in the draft. I think there's plenty of guys out there that could come and really round it out. What they did this year with Juju and MVS and McCole and Sky and Kadarius, I mean, there's no alpha there. Juju's about as close as it gets to an alpha, and he's really not. So just having that group and still seeing them perform like this, it comes back to the quarterback being the quarterback. You know, the MVP is the MVP. And so it also tells me that there's room to improve, and you can maybe help the offense more from the tailback position if you get like a nice 1-2 punch that you really feel can hammer it home. So that's what I'm looking for. And Iron Man, that's a fair point. Kelsey is kind of the alpha. It's unique that way, though. I'm actually talking about the wide receiver group and having that need, but maybe not having it have to be the top need, because you run, like you said, with Travis the alpha, all your wide receivers need to be as 2s, all of them. You don't have to have a number 1 with Travis on the field. But how much longer is Travis going to be on the field? That's the other question that we have to ask. Okay, I think we're going to wrap it up after the ones that we have now, so we're good. Ryan, any guards catch your eyes this year? They have an out on Tooney contract after next season. They do. And I think Kennard, who's already on the roster, is going to be a guard. I think who's the guy? I just watched a guy the other night that stood out to me. McClendon. McClendon is a guy I think can play tackle or guard. He's the other Georgia offensive tackle. I like him. Georgia has another a guard coming out next year that I think could be really good. There is, let's see, let me look at my master list, and I'll tell you who else I like inside a guard. McClendon's there. Jackson Kirkland I like. Good size. He used to be a tackle. He needed to make the transition to guard, and I think he's going to be a good one. He does have an injury history, so we got to watch that. Alex Forsythe from Oregon as well. And then let's see. Cooper Beebe. Go with a K-State or 2. So there's options there. Who's the riser at edge? And will you change your mind about Lucas Van Ness? I'm not sure what you mean about change my mind. I see him as a top 50 player easily, and maybe a fringe first rounder. So I just don't see him as a top 10. And this is the distinction I'm trying to make more this year, because people have heard me say I would think Nick Bolton's a first rounder, and then they think that I hate him. Not at all. I like Lucas Van Ness, and honestly, I love his fit for the Chiefs. But he's a 3-tech, and a 3-tech does not necessarily get me excited in the first round. A first rounder should be a quarterback, an offensive tackle, an edge, or a corner. That's my philosophy. I'm right on the fence about wide receivers even in the first round. But a defensive tackle, probably not. But the risers at edge for me, obviously Nolan Smith, he kind of went off. Who else had a really good day out? Let me take a look at that, because the guy's name is escaping me for some reason. Byron Young, I thought he had a good combine as well. And it confirms for me that the flashes that are on his Tennessee tape are real. And that's been my problem, is he's more inconsistent than I like. But the guy that really made me feel like, hey, he could be a true edge that fits exactly like what Spags wants and reminds me of Tamba Hali is Yaya Diaby. Yaya had a good day out as well. I want to say he was third. No, I'm sorry. He was third overall, but he had the fourth best matrix in power, in explosion, and in change of direction. Now, Yaya played at Louisville. Abdullah's the outside linebacker from there, by the way, who could be a day 3 guy that you could look at too. And I think Diaby could be a second-round guy that could really fit the Chiefs. But I'll change my mind on anybody that proves it. So if I just haven't seen the right 5 or 6 games on a guy, my evaluations are open until the day before the draft. But I do like Lucas, and I do think he's a top 50. I actually think could be right there for the Chiefs at 31, and I have no problem with them doing that at 31. I wouldn't trade up, is my point. Thanks, though. I appreciate you, DJ. And thank you, Steve. Using a car analogy, Andy and Veach prove that they can get from point A to point B using rental cars, free agents. Very good analogy. And rather than a sports car in Tyreek this season. Yes, I think they did, Steve. And in particular, it's about the balance. Yes, you can get by with the rental cars, but you also have to have some brand new, like, work trucks. Things that they're not fancy. That's where Creed Humphrey and Trey Smith come in. That's where the corners come in. It's workman-like stuff. You have to have that balance. And I think the big point that they proved is they don't have to have the elite wide receiver to keep this offense running. Patrick was just as good this season as he was in 19, and I think that's the big proof. So while wide receiver, I think, is probably right on the edge of being first round worthy, unless there's somebody that blows you away for his fit, I don't think you have to go get that, because I think they've proven they can take number 2 level competency wide receivers and make them good in this offense. Carlos, would you rather sign Jesse Bates in free agency or re-sign Juan Thornhill? I mean, that's a great question. And Carlos, I know you have had a super chat too. I'm sorry that I'm just slow tonight. So thank you for the super chat. Very much appreciate it. Let me get that squared away, and I'll answer the other ones in here too, because Steve had another one, and so did Zez. I'm going to say Zez. I don't know if that's how you're wanting it pronounced, but hey. Yes, I am still going. I like the idea of Jesse Bates. I don't like the paycheck. That's not what I'm looking for. So if I had my druthers, I would re-sign Juan Thornhill for half the money that Jesse Bates will cost. And I'll go get more of an investment in an edge, or go pay for an offensive tackle. That's kind of the route that I would probably take. Great question, though, Carlos. And thanks for the super chat and the support, buddy. Appreciate it. Let's see. Got that one too. Zaz. Broderick Jones or Anton Harrison? Thanks, and go Chiefs. Broderick's my number 1 tackle. So if it's just an AB out the door, it's Broderick every time. It's not close. Thank you for the support, Zaz. Broderick will be gone, though, I think, well before 19. So Anton Harrison is a guy who's going to be right in range, I think, for the Kansas City Chiefs at 31. So in that scenario, if you don't want to trade up and give up those to get to say 19 or I think it's 17 and certainly 16, then Anton becomes a nice second choice. Now, at first, Darnell Wright didn't seem to me like he could keep up, but he on watching more film the last 2 weeks, um, Darnell Wright is right there with Anton Harrison. He's got a little bit more power, a little less mobility in his feet. So very good comparisons there. So all three of them, I think, could work. Thank you, Zaz. Appreciate your support, bud. Do you like Jahmyr Gibbs? Yes, love him. Would you take him early if he fell? No. Jahmyr Gibbs is probably a top 50 talent. He might fall into the 60s. I still won't take him. Running back in the top 100 is a luxury if you have everything else fixed. So if they get extended for Orlando Brown and they draft, if they go get Broderick Jones, if he's there at 64 and you still have that pick, I could get down with it. If you get all that squared away and you have an edge rusher or two, but no, that's really unlikely. So no, I would not take him even if he fell. I would go get a fourth round running back that I feel I can plug into this offense and be the number 2 behind Pacheco. What is the next evolution of the offense? What it feels like to me is that what they're going to get now, I think, is teams trying to muscle them up, trying to out-physical them like the Eagles did. I think the hangover for next year is going to be teams trying to rough everybody up. So now I think they swing the pendulum back the other way. They run more, and I do think Andy will run more. He's not going to run as much as I want, but I think we're going to see an uptick like we saw in the Super Bowl. And more physical, bigger, stronger X receivers. They got to have one. Like, they need a bigger, stronger version of MVS. There's no DK Metcalfs out there, but they need something like that. And I think they needed Sammy Watkins if Sammy was ever healthy enough to play, right? Because Sammy could play the X and he used his body really well. So he didn't have to separate by miles. He could separate minimally, use his body to shield, and he was a strong point of contact player. That's what they need back again. Steve, another one. Should we draft a full-time kick returner or specialist? No. No, they have Sky Moore and they have Kadarius Toney. You don't need to draft a kick returner. Are you excited to see what Veach will do, as I am, in this draft free agency time? Yeah, Longmore, and I'm always excited because the staff is really good at finding treasures that even I haven't seen. Like, I watched one film of Joshua Williams, and I didn't have him as a guy that would make a roster. Clearly, I was wrong on him, but clearly they got him late. They also found Jalen Watson, who I was one of the only people who had a draftable grade on him. So, like, they really do their homework. And I'm excited to see what they find that I don't know about. Let's see. Let's see. Last question. I think this is going to be it because I think I answered all the others. Time to draft a backup quarterback. Yeah, I think I could see them do that on day 3. And this is the last one. Sorry, I got there. I saw a mock draft on NFL Network that predicted Antonio Johnson, corner out of Texas A&M. What do you think? He's actually a safety. I think he played more snaps at safety. I could be wrong. I think they worked him out as a corner today. But yeah, I think that is a possibility. Would I like it? No. And I don't know who did that particular mock. I think I saw that one too. But I don't feel like that's a wise use of the first round because I don't think he's going to be a drastically better grade than, say, Darnell Wright or Anton Harrison. Or, the 5th wide receiver who I have right now as Rashee Rice. I just feel like there's going to be equal grades on players where the Chiefs have holes that they have to fill. Lucas Van Ness, same thing. I think Lucas's grade, even after the athleticism, is going to be just as good as Antonio Johnson's. But Lucas fills a gap that the Chiefs have on their roster. So I think that's the better pick. So we'll get into all that as we go through because free agency will definitely change things. Thanks for sitting through the stream. Thanks for watching the Combine with me, one of my favorite activities. I'll have more for you. And remember, it's coming. It's not quite ready yet, but the Matrix is going to be here very, very soon. And when it does, you can pre-order it right here. we're halfway through the testing. So I have numbers on everybody coming in. I'm going to calculate that. I'm going to build the graphics. It'll take 10 days maybe, and I'll have the matrix ready for you. You can grab it right now over at rogueapc.com. And then as soon as it's ready, I'll drop it and everybody can go back and download it. It's super simple. It's a PDF download. It's super fast. And then all that combined with all of our film grades and all of my production metrics, they go into the draft guide. That will be very much farther down the line, closer to the draft itself. But that's where we're at. And hey, it's an exciting time of year. Thank you guys for being here. Thanks for spending your Friday night. I hope you enjoy your weekend. We're going to have the Sunday night stream. We're going to have the Monday night Q&A. We have all kinds of new stuff coming for you too as we shift into full off season mode with all of our guys. I hope that you're enjoying it. I certainly am. This is how the Chiefs build their next championship. The next rookie class to fall is right here on the screen this weekend. So have a good look at them. I hope you guys have a great weekend yourselves. I'll catch you later.